This is the Blooming Psyche Podcast. Grab a seat and join us as we navigate life our own way.
Now let's begin blooming our psyche.
Right, like, it's crazy. So, but yeah, when I realized that this was happening and this person was just kicking ass every single day in comparison to me, who sometimes doesn't kick ass every single day, it was just like, okay, well, we got to change something then. Can't be letting some 13-year-old girl kick my ass.
Yeah, and there's always someone doing something that you could be doing that you'd love to be doing, but you're doing whatever you're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, fuck, should I be doing something else with my time?
Yeah, totally. Question time.
Yeah. So we have 10 questions here. The first question, what has been the most transformative moment of your life so far? Shit.
That's a tough one. So there's a lot of transformative moments.
I have a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
We can go one for one, and let's try to give like as many as we can.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of keep it to three most that stand out the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's plenty.
Yeah.
I'll start then.
Okay.
So I think what I definitely didn't start the snowball, but this pushed it pretty good. And that's when I was in grade 10. I basically came to the realization that like the previous years of just like really awkward social behavior and not really being effective at conversation or not being able to emulate, empathize, or kind of feel really what people were feeling, right? And it was like a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how the hell do I repair this? So I was like, okay. And I was like, I need to come up with a solution. So my solution was I needed to change schools. And I had the ability to do that because my parents are divorced. So I was like, okay, I'll just go to this location. And then I'll go to the school there. It's like, okay, I have an out. But the idea behind it was I needed to alter my behavior. But I also needed to take myself out of the place that was causing it, or rather allowing it to keep being.
Manifesting itself. Yeah. So and to preface that would be because everybody had a preconceived notion of who you were.
Exactly.
And they judged you for based on the person that they knew you to be in previous years.
Exactly. I believed their lie,
Yeah.
which was my own narration that I thought was me, that wasn't me. Right? And that was profound to me in the moment, because when I succeeded at it, I knew that I wasn't stuck to my past.
And so in what way did you succeed?
Okay, I'll elaborate on the story further. So from grade 10 to 11, I went to a different school. I was like, okay, this next grade, I will be a different person. And that meant a lot because I had to kill my prior self. I had to be okay with not doing or being what I was. Because I had to step into an area where I didn't know what I was going to be, but I had an intention upon what I was going to focus my action towards. And it was very simple. I was like, I needed basically two things. I needed to befriend every single person in the school. That was my goal. Right? And that was the action that would lead to this becoming. And then the other thing, the intention that I set was, I'm going to be me. And that was profound in the moment, because I was like, I wasn't being me. Like, I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't happy. I wasn't what I could be. And like the real me is like, everyone knows, like, you have an optimal you, and it's just being yourself. And I was like, I just needed to do that. And that exact intention, along with that action, led me to open up and feel things that I had lost. And then actually be able to have feel what someone else is feeling, because I can actually communicate.
Right. Yeah.
And I was numb to the body language and certain sensation of feeling. I was very limited in a way, just due to prior circumstance, which could be other transformational moments. But this one in particular is one that was highlighting, because it gave me such a capacity to see that I can change with two things. some actions, and an intention. That was it. Everything else is formula.
Yeah. Some action plus some thought and some attention, as you said. That's pretty much the formula right there.
Yeah.
To creating the answer you wish to see with any question or with any change that you want to see in yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much.
You have to make action.
It's the counterpart to a thought. And
Right.
that's the thing that most people don't consider as deeply, is every thought that they have has a counterpart action, whether now or later, because that thought is going to bounce and resonate and hit something else and trigger another thought that you might believe is you and then do it, which could just be a result of some misused language, something else that you were trying to describe in your own head, but the use of that language came back and hit something else.
Right.
And maybe that was targeted at you accidentally, and now you think of yourself as something that's incapable of whatever language that you used in your head to criticize yourself.
Yeah. Definitely. Interesting. That's not something to scoff at. That's not something to roll your eyes at and look away from. That's real. That's a real change that occurred due to just the time, the place, and the choices that you made. Right? And this is something that is universally applicable to almost everybody, at least in our Western world here.
Yeah.
Right? You can decide, right? I'm going to just up and move where like you can feel held down in one spot. And that's what most people do feel, held down, right? There's no other option. This is where I am. This is my fucking choice. This is all I got. Right? Well, that's not the case. You can decide, I'm going to get up and I'm going to fucking move to this part of the world, or I'm going to move to some place and I'm just going to completely reinvent myself. And that is something that you went through the process of doing at a younger age. And you can see it happen, like the change that occurred from that probably quite, I wouldn't say difficult, maybe not for you, but difficult for most people experience, right? Like that experience would be a difficult choice to make for most, but for you it was just kind of, it was second nature. It was like, I need to make this change because what is happening is not working.
Yeah, but it became second nature at a point when I could recognize that I was getting tortured by it for 11 years. Right? This incapacity. And this was the snowball hit that kept it rolling really fast and made it larger, because I came to recognize that I wasn't stuck in that as that person.
Right. Interesting.
With that capacity.
Yeah. And you had to recognize that to move forward in the first place.
And I had to give myself a mountain to climb, but all of the necessity and reason to do it.
Yeah.
And it was no brainer at that point.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, just like, a couple other things, other choices that have been made in your life, like having to leave to join the military, right? Like that was another choice that had to happen for you, I think, in that moment, right? Was it not?
I mean, I also set an intention behind that, or rather the intention that led me to that being the choice. Yet again, that was actually a mere thought of that first event where I was like, I'm going to create another one of these.
Yeah,
right?
That's neat.
A new landscape where I have an intention behind my action, but I'm put in such a different place that I have no bearing on my destination. Therefore, I have no choice but to open and see whatever happens and make the best of everything in the moment.
Open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah, and that was my intention set behind it, was to experience all sorts of different types of people and the way that they think and how they think and their perspective and the way that they would handle something versus not handle something, because it's such a diverse culture of people, because they're coming from all sorts of parts of Canada.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So that was also a thought that hit me when I was making that decision. I was like, okay, well, that's one of the opportunities having this choice be made.
Wild. Yeah, and you can see that all of these changes have stuck with you in some way, in the way that you carry yourself, in the way that you communicate with people, in the way that you think, you know.
Yeah.
I would say that you, from the eye of the beholder of a regular everyday person that is Joe Schmo, they would see the way that you think is different, for sure. I see the way that you think is different. Let's be completely honest.
That is fair.
But I also have a grasp on where this stems from, right? And I have an understanding of different, I have a different experience that kind of led me to have an open mind towards different paths of thought, right?
Okay.
Kind of not in a similar way that you have, but the way that I think, I don't think is anywhere near what your regular person, how they would think about what is real and what is fake and what is impossible, right? The way that I think is a little different, and that has led me to understand that there is different ways of thinking, and that you can change who you are through simple mental thought and through simple action to make these things happen.
Yeah.
So
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. That said, for me, what has been the most transformative moment of your life so far, or one of them? Now, I have a few, but my mind jumps between 100 of them at the same time, which is very difficult.
I know.
But
There's
at the
so
same
many.
time, they're small yet large,
Yeah.
right? I would have to say one of the most transformative moments was my hockey injury,
Okay.
right?
That's also, like, injury is profound.
It is, absolutely, right? And then the reason was because at such a young age of like 15 or whatever age I was when that injury occurred about 11 years ago, that was causing me consistent enough pain, but it wasn't that consistent that it was worth to any of my family or even me thinking about going and getting it fixed.
Yeah.
So having to find a way to work around it, my body having to find a way to navigate this pain that I'm feeling at random times, this really sharp, sudden pain that would come and go, or every time I'd move my back in a certain way, it would tweak my back and hurt it. Having to find a way to strategize. Yeah, sure. So you could say strategize by finding different ways to navigate around this pain. I feel it all the time. It's not a sharp pain all the time, but most of the time there's an extreme dull pain that sucks, and I'm having it right now. It's always. It's not fun. And I've been told that it's actually not what the previous chiropractor thought it was, but I think every chiropractor I go to is going to say something different, trying to be right. But that said, it's supposedly it is not the L5 and L4. It is the L3 and L4. And all of that damage has caused muscle tension to guard the pain and the injury, and it's actually muscle pain that is being caused, which does make a degree of sense.
Well, it depends on when the injury was, because if the thing is healed but you still have the tightened muscle that is, like, at this point so condensed that you really need to, like, break it in, but that's painful, right? But you also have to let it recover or you re-injure.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a fine line that there's, like, stages of transition for the healing of the injury.
Yeah, absolutely. But through that, the thing that was transformative about it, besides the obvious, which is the pain itself, having a transformation on my life and the way that I walk and the way that I can bend and all that stuff, it's shown me how to navigate through pain in general, with when it comes to fucking stubbing my toe, or when it comes to punching a wall. If I'm like, not that I do that, but, like, if I was to slap something really hard with the back of my hand,
Or accidentally.
I have the accidentally or whatever, or if I had something drop on my foot and
fuck, I dropped a 20-pound dumbbell on my toe.
That's not fun,
I can
right?
still feel it on my big toe.
Oh no, right? But it's shown me ways in my mind where I can learn where I've learned how to navigate through pain, and it may hurt and I may react in a moment, but it's not going to stop me from being able to continue on with my daily activities.
Mm.
It's not gonna, unless it's crippling, it's not going to stop me from attempting to go to work, unless I've thrown my back out really badly and I can't get up, right? Otherwise, regular pain is not that big of a deal to me. And that's the transformation right there.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like, the injury is liberating in a way because you need to strategize. And that strategy allows you to come up with some level of plan, which is the action. And then the intention is to fix the thing. So you've got some kind of mission going on here. And then you're willing to sacrifice and do things to fix this problem because it's a necessity. You have an actual necessity, like, shit, I got to deal with this. So then you come up with a plan. And then by doing so, it allows you to really integrate that in the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Thinking about it that way, it's like when, let's just say I've thrown my back out, or let's just say I punched a wall just because I can't get my mind off punching a wall for whatever reason. Let's just say I punched a wall and I hit a stud and I hurt my hand and maybe I broke my fingers. My first thought is not nothing, and it's just reactive. You know, like reactive, where you're like, oh, fuck, I fucked my hand back. You know, where you freak out and you have absolutely no control. It's okay. It's okay. What have I done? What is the visible damage that I can see? And how do I fix it right now? Yeah. Right? How do I fix it in the best way possible until I can get assistance? Yeah. Right?
What's the next step?
What's the next step? And then, you know, there's going to be a cloud in the judgment. There's going to be fogginess because you're in fucking pain and your body and your mind is telling you, hey, there's an issue. And but when you see it as that, where your mind and your body is just telling you that there's a problem, then it allows you the ability to just think about what is happening to your body and to your vessel, so that you can deal with the problem instead of just having everybody else around you have to deal with the problem. Yeah. Right? So that has been one of the most transformative moments for me, is dealing with pain and learning how to deal with pain.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a period where you can't feel it yet and you have to immediately react.
Yeah.
You don't know the extent of the injury. You just know that something has taken place and it is very wrong.
Yes. Well, just like with the nail through the hand.
Yeah.
I got the 3-inch spike when helping build a garage for my high school task program to get my work experience. And I shot a 3-inch spike through my hand with a nail gun. And first couple seconds, like I was fucked. I was like so upset, but
I would understand.
Yeah,
that.
Absolutely. But like for the first few seconds, they were like, "Are you okay?" And in my first thing I said, "Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm fine." And then like 10 seconons later, I was like, "Okay, maybe I'm not fine." And then off to the hospital we went, and we got it all dealt with. And then I was high as fuck on OxyContin for a bit. But that was, don't suggest taking that stuff.
Yeah, and then there's the little compound bow.
Yes, the compound bow incident. This is a first person lesson on for both of us on why you don't drink and play with a fucking 20-pound pull compound bow for children. Bad idea. Do not do it, because there will be miscommunications, and then there will be potentially people losing their fingernails. This happened to us. We were doing trick shots, I believe. Yeah. We were playing horse, right? It was horse. Something. And I decided to try to do a shot on my back with a compound bow on the ground, which was not smart. And we never made this mistake again. We were young and dumb. Aries decides to come over and try to help because he sees that the arrow is not going to go in the right direction, right? You were like, okay, maybe I can just line this up. I asked, are you good? Are you up? Like, I was trying to ask, are you out of the way? I thought I heard you say yes, but you clearly said no. And I let go of the thing, and then I just hear, pull it back, or something like that. And the fingernail was completely gone. You're like, nope, it's gone. And yeah, so Aries, we have some history.
But the thing is I was totally fine.
Yes.
I was the coolest cat of any person that was there in that moment.
Yes.
I was like, pull that back. my fingernail is in the bow, or my finger's in the bow.
It was on the ground in the dirt, actually.
Sorry, my finger was in the bow, but yeah, it just ripped the fingernail off when it came out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was messy, and it was not pretty at all. But it seems to have grown back relatively well.
Yeah,
it's
I
not.
mean,
It's got a little bit of a
well, that
thing
was
to
a
it.
different thing because it was
Oh.
growing in fine,
Yeah.
and then it caught the edge where you have like the crescent light part of your
right
tissue,
Yeah.
and it caught that. So I tried to like notch it, like to get rid of it,
Oh.
but it also caught it again when I wasn't paying attention,
Fuck.
and then it pulled that a little bit lower.
Well.
But like other than that, the fingernail is the same.
Yeah, but we don't have a picture of it, but like it was the entire fingernail, like it was like a rectangular shape. Oh, it was so gross. Yeah. Anyways,
Well, we had, yeah.
so yeah, could have been another transformative moment in our life. I
See,
think
and that's where everything bad, I believe, is equally good.
absolutely that was a big lesson.
Yeah.
For both of us. Yeah. No more horse trick shots while you're drunk
But I
with
mean,
a compound bow.
it's as fast as you could recognize that
Yeah.
the thing that you didn't like happened was actually for your benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, oh, it's a shitty day at work. Okay, but why was it shitty? The moment you think about it and then you try to learn the lesson, you then become greater.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just easier recognizing the discomfort in yourself. And then let's ask the next question.
Okay. If you could solve one world problem, what would it be and why?
Oh, Jesus.
That's a big one.
I don't know. I feel like that's a really hard question to answer.
Well,
I have not considered that yet.
I don't know. Like, if there's many world problems that we can think of,
Oh, yeah.
right?
But one.
One and why? Which one would it be and why? If you need a
World
minute.
hunger? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, fair. No, that's a good one. That's. I would say that I wish everybody could be fed. Sadly, we don't live in a world where that's.
I mean, it's possible.
Like,
it's very possible.
Yeah, it's possible, but
I do not have the power to change
no,
that.
no, but
And I don't think one crop massive agriculture, like desolation of like Roundup and fertilizer is the way to go either.
no.
I think a more regenerative way where things can actually flourish in time rather than diminish rapidly.
Yeah, and then have all this processed food be going into everybody. That's just not the way to do it. That
Yeah.
said, is that your answer? Just world
Sure,
hunger?
I think that's a great answer.
Fantastic.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, it really is. I would probably say if I could solve one world problem, it would be the just this is I don't know. This is a little bit of an
Here,
interesting
if
one.
you can't answer now,
No,
don't.
no. I have an answer, but I don't know how I want to word it.
Okay, what's it then?
The idea is people minding their own fucking business.
Not getting caught up with what someone else is doing.
Yes.
And lots of people have a caveat, which is, okay, but what if it's harming someone else or like something like that? And I think there's certain boundaries, but I
Absolutely.
think people's boundaries nowadays are ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely. I think they're absolutely ridiculous. But like, if we all could just mind our own fucking business, you know, if every religion in the world could accept every religion in the world and be like, okay, these people believe what they believe. We believe what we believe. Fuck it. I don't care what they
Yeah.
believe. They're over there doing their thing.
Sure.
We're over here doing our thing. Why do we need nukes? Why do we need all this bullshit? Right? Like, we could just,
Oh, it's gonna hurt our money.
our money.
That we're fucking super rich.
Oh, you know, fucking. There was no such thing as money 5,000 years ago, but you know what? Like, yeah, it's gonna hurt our money. Anyways, I would solve people minding their own fucking business. Anyways,
That's a fine answer.
thank you.
I like
okay.
that.
Yes, me too.
Number this is a good one. How do you define success?
Oh.
And do you feel you have achieved it? I think I have on different levels in different capacities.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's
mean-
very high forms of achievement, and there's
Very
broad and minor.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I would say,
Well, that's
How
not
do you
achievement, rather success.
I would say, okay, if I could define success in one sort of sentence, I would say success is the ability to accomplish the things that you wish to accomplish in your daily goals every day.
You fulfill your word.
You fulfill your word. Yes, I like that. But like that is how I would define success, is the ability to let's just say write things down, write 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever amount of things down, and do those things.
Yeah.
And not give in on yourself, and not say, I did good yesterday, I'm not going to do it today. Well, now you've just let yourself fail. And you've allowed yourself the weakness and the ability to let the darkness come back in and take over, right? My definition of success is being disciplined. Yeah. And I don't feel I have achieved it. And I'm working on it.
I like that answer, because I feel like in my perception of things, there are very factual things that you can draw a conclusion on. But I think for the vast many topics, drawing a conclusion is folly. So not stating that you have accomplished discipline gives you the capacity to constantly search for more.
Absolutely. And I'm constantly in search. I'm constantly observing different ways to be, and I'm constantly attempting to find myself doing more than I did the day before. Right? So, and not every day is perfect. I'm one of those people that was raised and lived a pretty cushy life, and that is where my battle is. My battle is in the person that I was raised as, and the people that I was raised around, and the fact that I behave very similarly to that. And every change that has been made is out of the scope of the people that I've been surrounded by in my family, in my friend groups, and all of that stuff, right? Yeah. So, no, I have not made it, because my attempt and my want to be a disciplined human being didn't start very long ago. Yeah. Right? And so I'm in the middle of a battle with my mentality and my brain and my past and my future, and it's all combined into one me right now.
Yeah. And when you say not long ago, you mean when you made a decision to be this person.
Yes, exactly. And clearly I haven't made that decision well enough, because there's still room. Because there's still room, right? I'm not the kind of person that comes on to be on a podcast and talk and say that I'm perfect. That's not how it is.
Far from it.
Because we're all the whole point of this podcast and why we're doing this is because we're growing too. Yeah. Right? We're not all there. Right? This is the journey. It's ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely. This is the journey, and I'm making strides to become that person, and I know that I'm going to achieve it. But it's going to come one step at a time.
Totally. I think that's the only way it can.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you define success?
Oh, fuck. Success. I think I noted it right at the beginning. I think it's fulfilling your word.
Yes. Right.
Right? Because that's the core fundamental of committing an action that your mind and body made in tandem. And this is important, I think, for many reasons, but that's where balance stems. When you have your mind, and when you say you're going to do a thing, you do the thing, right? And that has a power. And then there's the inverse of it, which is when you say you're going to do a thing, you don't do the thing. And that also has a power. And when I mean power, I mean the repetitions that you let that thing thrive in your mind, right? Have you farmed more thoughts of saying something and not doing it with your body that you say that you're going to do? Or have you farmed more thoughts that you're actually doing the thing that you committed to yourself that you said that you were going to do and you did it?
Exactly.
Right? And I think that these are two very separate bins. But regardless, it doesn't mean that you can't get out of one and into the other. It's just now you have to go against the snowball. Right. It's going up the mountain or down the mountain, right? It's much harder to do something that you're not doing when something the inverse of it has a lot of strength. Right? But you know that you're going to feel resistance. Right? It's absolute. Any change, you will feel resistance in whatever capacity and density that the challenge is on. Right? So when you're doing that thing, you have to accommodate for that in your allowance of the moment so you don't get upset with what's happening.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You have to recognize it's going to happen every time for everything, so
Yeah.
you might as well accept it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything fights back.
Absolutely.
It's just the way the universe is.
Yeah, and especially when you have a specific, and that's why I think discipline and that are
Yeah.
they're pretty much the same thing, right?
Totally.
Discipline and yeah. So, but like that's the thing is when you have 20 plus years of going back on your word or doing things that don't require you to follow through with your word, right? Then your baseline is so weak.
Exactly.
Right? You have to consistently be able to stop and think and be like, no, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing, right? And that is where you start to grow your strength mentally over yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's not over yourself. It is yourself.
Absolutely.
You're just incorporating
Yes.
that into your
For sure.
thought process.
Yeah, but trying to my attempt there is trying to differentiate the self from
yes,
right?
as the ego.
Exactly, right? So you're trying to have this power over yourself, but there's this piece of you that ego that holds on to what you were because you're comfortable and you want to stay in that level of comfort. And 20 plus sorry, 20
It's the
plus
small self.
Exactly. 20 plus years of experience of that in the past that has technically nothing to do with right now holds on to you like fucking fish hooks. Like
Yeah.
it just grabs you and it's just like, no, you're not going anywhere.
Usually
I'm
the
gonna
loudest
keep
voice.
reeling you on back. I'm going to keep reeling on you right on back. I'm going to bait you with Sour Patch Kids and fucking video games and fucking this and that and the other fucking thing that you all love. And it's just and like you're going to start thinking about, right? Exactly. I feel it deep in my fucking soul and sometimes it sucks me back and it wins me over.
Yeah.
But this is where you have to make that decision where it's just, is this going to benefit me?
Totally.
Am I going to move forward if I eat these Sour Patch Kids, or am I just going to keep adding on to these layers of fat in my body?
Yeah. Especially if you've committed to a word of yourself that you're going to do the opposite of what you're doing right now.
Exactly. That's where you need to learn how to say no. Say fucking no
Boundary.
to yourself. To yourself. It's not boundaries of everybody else around you. It's yourself.
It's yourself.
It's yourself. You gotta have some boundaries. Or if you're the kind of person that goes to work and then goes home and then you go and eat McDonald's every day after work, right?
Yeah.
You've obviously never been told no. you've never given yourself the option of saying, maybe I shouldn't do this today. Maybe I should just go home and have a salad, right?
I'm sure that thought has crossed many people's minds.
Maybe, but I'm sure it has also crossed many people, or has not crossed many people's minds. I'm sure of it. There's so many people on this planet.
Okay, that's fair.
There's some people that are just so mentally broken that they go,
They
McDonald's
would
is just
rather
fine.
vomit.
I would
than
rather
eat the vegetables.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So discipline and that is success in my mind.
That's
Anyways,
fair. I mean, that's a very good definition of success.
Yeah,
I
well,
think.
and it's the level 1. It's level 1 to success too, right? There's many different forms of success.
Yeah.
Right? But
It's walking on the water.
The thing that brings all of that is discipline, right? So this is your foundation of success. And that is where it comes from. That's where everything will stem from. If you don't have the discipline to get up and fucking do it, you're never going to do it.
Yeah,
You can
because
never be
time will
successful.
pass regardless of the decision that you make.
Exactly. And then you will grow old and you will die.
And you will
that's what's gonna
regret.
happen. Exactly. Next on our lovely topics here.
What is something you believe that most people don't? And why do you hold that belief?
Oh,
Shit.
interesting. Interesting. Now that most people don't. I
That
don't know.
most
I can't
people
read most
don't.
people's mind. I can't read most people's mind, so I don't know what people believe unless I talk to them about it. And you and I have a lot of the same
What do you
beliefs,
feel
I think.
in ways that you're
I don't know.
different in things that you believe?
Well, let's see. Let's see. Okay. I believe in not actually too much. This is interesting.
That's a fucking fascinating response.
Yeah. I don't believe in much. I believe
Fair.
that we
I mean, that's a really good answer.
like really thinking about it.
Like in true belief.
True belief. I do truly believe that everybody has potential
Yeah, that's a
to
great
grow
one.
and be a better person, the person that they want to be.
100%.
But outside of that, I know fucking nothing. So I don't truly believe anything.
It's the fucking quantum response.
Right? Like, how can I have a belief that, like, how do...
If you don't know the rules of the game.
Exactly.
That's a fucking great answer. Because you're totally right. If you do not know the absolute rules of the game, which no one does, therefore, how can you make an absolute claim that something is true?
Yeah. Right? So...
I mean, other than something that you cannot dispute, but even then, there might be some variation in your ability to sense what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you're under some level of influence or of any capacity.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Then your perspective perhaps can change and shift, that many people might not have this view.
Mm-hmm.
Although, does that mean that imagination isn't real or isn't actually part of reality? Because I think that's another fascinating belief that I think I may hold, is in one way, imagination has to be real.
Yes.
Because to some level of, I would say, subconsciousness in your understanding, it's having an impact on you in the way that you understand what you believe in.
Yeah.
Like on an implicit level.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Even if you have some dream of some degree, you
Absolutely.
still reason with what's actually taking place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you believe in the multiverse theory, every time you have a thought, a new universe is made based around that thought.
Because it's just fractals.
It's just fractals, right? The quantum is infinite and creates all of these different universes in mere seconds, right? So yeah, I mean, the imagination is real, and if you think that imagination isn't real, right? And this is a belief that I believe most people would have, is that imagination, you can't really think
Not that it's not real, it's that what's taking place isn't part of reality, so to speak. Like
right.
you're hallucinating.
Right. Yes. Okay. So
sorry, rather not imagination, hallucination, which
Hallucination.
takes place in many different ways.
Yeah. Oh,
that
for
could
sure.
be a daydream, that could be a thought, that could be you with your eyes open picturing something in your head with your visualization. That is also technically a hallucination.
Interesting.
Right? Because it's a level of visual that's taking place concurrent with your eyeballs.
Yeah.
Right? Is that not the case?
Yeah.
And
right.
could that not be something that could be trained? Is
Right.
what I'm getting at. Like, it's not that it's unreal in a way that it's something that can't be exploited for potentially, let's say, a sober moment in someone else's perspective.
Right.
Right? It's technically taking place, and you're fully functional.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like thinking about a mushroom trip, right?
Sure.
Just as an example, right?
Yeah.
A mushroom trip. If you take a lot of mushrooms and you start seeing shit, and you're functional. You can move. You can interact with, maybe not by touching the thing that's happening in your trip, but you can respond, and you can see, and you can maybe understand something about what's happening.
Yeah.
In this weird conglomeration of whatever is going on in your trip, right?
Yeah. And that begs a second question. Is what
that?
you're seeing in that time like factual? Right? Like, let's say you see like glowing shit or this and whatever, and is it factual? Right? Like, some things can bend and flop and do weird illusions, but could some of these illusions actually be, let's say, I don't know, like a veil that your eyes in the wavelength that they see can't pick up what you're seeing, potentially with your mind connecting to something else? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe. Like, I think there, to a degree, sure. Like, going back to the conversation we had with my fiance on synesthesia, right?
Sure.
There's pieces of our mind where synapses are not intermingled and crossed, where we can not see what these people with synesthesia can see. For example, for those who have not heard that conversation,
that's when you have two senses happening at the same time.
Two senses happening at the same,
or more.
It's a crossing of senses, right? So Vale has synesthesia that, and I don't know the exact name of it, but it's essentially when she hears sounds, she sees colors in like a ring around her eyes, and they have different fluctuations and
representations.
Exactly. So there is absolutely, when you do something like take mushrooms, you can see stuff like that. You can see colors, and sometimes these synapses almost seem to meld together.
They certainly
right?
do.
And then you come back from that, and that is no longer, right? So there's definitely something there's pieces of the mind that we have absolutely no concept of, and that we can't see because specific synapses just simply are not intertwined or crossed or touching with other synapses in your brain.
Yeah.
Which is so wild.
But that just begs the question. If we all have different levels and layers of synapse connection where we're seeing and experiencing different things, does that not ask another thing, which is, are we all not living a different reality? And in this capacity, are the things that we think are factual and real that we can prove not actually slightly varying between different people in that exact same situation?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I would say
on certain levels.
I would say all of our minds are, yes, we're living different realities, technically speaking. We're living on the same plane of existence, but we're all living a different reality completely.
Yeah.
Right. Even yourself from your own dad have different views and have different thought patterns and have different this and that and the other thing that make you you. This is why you don't have a father and then you look exactly like that father and you think exactly like that father, and then everything about you two is the exact same. Right. That's the idea, I think, behind our creation and the reason why we evolved in the first place. Right. Because if you always stayed the same, we never would have evolved to this point in the first place. If every time you pass down the gene of, let's just say, like, I don't know, fucking lion passes down the gene to another lion, well, that lion learns from that father lion, maybe the I don't know, the is it a
patriarch or something? Sure,
we'll just call it that. The king of the lions. That child learns from the father, but that child lion doesn't stay there. They get sent out to make their own pride, and then that lion has to learn how to do things its own way through its own experiences, right? So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and we probably shouldn't stay on this topic too long.
Fine. and then the environment's also constantly changing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, which is also leading to further evolution.
Exactly,
because you have to adapt to the circumstances.
Exactly, which is why there's literally no way that any human being could be the exact same as one another, and we couldn't be living the same reality.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
And to further the previous point, no moment is ever the same in any experiment ever.
No. This is why photographs, this is why I'm so fascinated by photographs, because this is a moment in time that you can never recreate.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. You can never recreate that exact
identically.
moment. Like, identically. Because even if you're taking a photo, let's just say, remember when I took that photo of the meditating dude, and I edited it up to look super fucking cool?
Yeah.
That photo, even if I took 500 photos in that exact 1 second frame, right? Maybe a dust particle would have flown by and was in a different spot, and each one of those photos, and like it'll never be the exact same photo ever. Yeah. Lighting could change. Somebody could walk by in the background. The mildew on the grass could fucking go down a little bit. Whatever, right? Yeah. It'll never be the same. That's why I'm so fascinated by this, because
everything's in motion.
Everything always, constantly, and it reminds you of that. It reminds you of that if you really think about it.
Fundamental principles.
Absolutely. So the only thing that can ever be, the same reality is that one photo. So that's the same deal with us. We are living our own life, our own reality, our own thing. Nobody, like, I go talk to my mom and we'll have a completely different thoughts on different things, right? She's still my mom, and but like that's just how it is. It's not weird. It's not like, people are meant to have different viewpoints on things. Even if you're best friends with somebody for your entire life and you do everything together, there will come a time where you're not thinking the same things.
Totally.
Right? And I think that's just the fascinating thing about humans, and why when we've achieved this consciousness and we think, this, every single human being is just so diverse and different. There's no way to be the same as somebody else. You can try.
Yeah.
You could try to be the same as somebody else. But I can promise you, if you want to be, if you want to be The Rock,
yeah,
you can maybe try to emulate his physique,
yeah,
but you're never going to think the same thoughts at the same
No.
time and live the life that he's living, because it's his life
yeah,
and you're living your life.
exactly.
And you got to remember that, right? Anyways, that was a little bit
Beautiful.
of a ramble. Sorry.
No, that's great.
Okay. What book or movie has influenced you significantly, and how? I think we've talked about this in the past.
I have many books.
There's many books. So just so you guys know, the layout of our podcast is a bunch of our, definitely Aries' favorite books here, that are sitting on the table. Every time we touch the table, they rock back and forth as if they're going to fall over. It's great.
But they don't.
No, they don't. They're just the tower of books. And then there's other towers of books all over the place here. That said, I think the one that did most for me
Yeah.
was, and I have two. There was the one that we've talked about many times, The Secret of the Golden Flower.
Okay.
The other one was The Science of the Breath.
Yeah.
And those two intertwined made a world of difference.
Dude, that's why I compounded those two as almost like a set. That was my first two.
Yeah, and they come from completely different religious beliefs, which is crazy. It's wild. And that they intertwine with each other, and that you can use the knowledge and the mechanics of the science of the breath with the traditional knowledge and belief system of this Secret of the Golden Flower. And then you can intertwine those things to create massive change in your life just through applying the mechanics of both of these things together.
Yeah. And it also depends at what angle you read the book.
Yeah.
How many times you've read. Exactly. Yeah, we've corrected that. How many times you've read the book, because those two are every single time you read it. Well, not only is it forcing you to think about it.
Yeah.
It's also, you may have changed in your beliefs since the last time, and now you see it a different way, just simply by your perspective.
Yeah, and before you continue, they're touching on the previous thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
You don't even live your own fucking same reality every single day.
No.
You're not even the same person every day.
Not
Anyways, we can continue.
close.
I just wanted to say that. Like, you're not even the same person as you were yesterday.
Hell
right?
no, dude.
Your belief systems change all the time.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I keep it open to a degree so it can intermingle with other things that have layers of like factual pieces that I have collected over time as like the essence of experience. But it's not that I've come to any particular conclusion about anything, because any evidence at any point in time may suggest otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that's my reasoning on that.
Absolutely. Let's continue though with what we were talking about. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. For the books.
Yeah. So how about you for maybe if you have any different books that?
Yeah, because those two are fucking awesome.
They are. Oh my god, you should get those two.
But the next one that I actually read after, I'm not gonna say debunk because that's not even fucking close. It's more confirm than anything, but merges with science in the way that experimentation is done, in the way that you're obviously the experiment is irreplicable, so therefore it's still fallible to all of the conditions I haven't seen or considered. But when doing anything, oh fuck, I lost my first thread. Because this is the hermetic science of transformation. And in experimentation, it merges what one would call magic, but when you demystify the word and translate it with a different meaning, absolute truth. And that just represents everything that is, regardless of the opinions that anyone throws at it, right?
Yeah,
actual factual universe.
Yeah.
Like the actual existence of what is that everyone tries to glimpse and
like
and
just
then
as
describe.
A really dumbed down example. You find a rock and somebody tells you that it's a flower.
Yeah.
No, it's a fucking rock.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, well, in a way, it's everything that you could attempt to ask a question of that it itself knows all of its own answers because it is the thing.
Yeah.
That's the universe, effectively.
Right.
So magic represents absolute wisdom, which is to glimpse at what is the universe, right? But it's not necessarily glimpse at, it's to, with the, and this is where it includes Hermetic, is the belief that everything has a fundamental layer, and there are many layers that we can describe, and there's some that we can't. But upon reviewing and seeing what is, it gives you the experience, right? But there's many ways that people have a perspective, like we mentioned earlier, that they are inept to experience certain experiences because they don't hold the belief that it's possible. Therefore, their mind segments in a different way and they have a different reality.
Yeah.
It's just how the brain works in tandem with the universe. So that being said, just the belief that things beyond your current understanding may take place. And that's all it is.
Absolutely.
That's all it is. So then you include 4 steps of reality, which is everything's basically got 4 layers in, let's say, ourselves, right? So the first layer being the physical, right? Just like, and then the second layer, it's kind of connected because the second layer is our nervous system. So the physical representing all of our meat, muscle, like everything else. But just the nervous system is there too. So that layer 1 includes everything outside you that you're feeling, like everything, right? So these are the things that you can manipulate. This is your meat body, so to speak, right? The thing that you've collected from the earth that is the earth,
Yes.
right? That you get to manipulate. But noting that it is the earth, that means it is made up of all the same principles and concepts and light and everything else that the earth is, right? Because you're taking from it. Therefore, you leverage the same principles.
Interesting.
So using this in the furthering of this, the second layer is your nervous system, right? Your nervous system representing the brain, all of the connections to all of your organs, all of your extremities, like all of the merging nervous, basically telephone wires that become what is so-called as meridians or pressure points and things like this. And those have energy signals, which is electricity or a chemical bond swapping that happens as it propagates the signal. I'm not going to get into the biology too much, but it basically sends a ping to a part of your body that is then represented as understanding at another location.
Right.
Right? But it happens at the same repetition, different repetition, same amplitude. It's just frequency.
Right.
How many times is it sending the signal where you freak out?
Yeah.
But it's always the same amplitude of signal. 70 millivolts, not really relevant.
So then how has that influenced you?
Yeah, so basically the understanding of the nervous system is then represented in something that you can leverage, which is the physical.
Right.
Right? So my thoughts are still part of my nervous system.
Of course.
The way that my body accumulates things, let's say in the solar plexus, which is attached to your gut and other organs, has a different intuition or instinct because it's under certain tensions or feelings because that's its purview. So when your body is in coordination with something that affects these things, you're now, let's say, gut feeling is the brain, as opposed to maybe that also works in tandem with the brain, or maybe there's some are separate, some sensations that are subconscious or intuitive, right? So in this way, you can then, by understanding these principles, you can leverage it by telling your body what to do, as in most people wouldn't have certain capacities to tell their autonomic nervous system what to do if they didn't have the right intention and the right action, going back to that principle and the formula. So that being said, the mind, which is layer 3, represented by the whole body, because the whole nervous system then, as electromagnetism works and fluid and motion and electricity, it then sends a basically expanding emittance around the cable, like you do, like electromagnetic radiation from electricity running through a wire. It's the same principle, right? But your body now has these channels, right, where this electricity or this energy you can send with your intention and your mind by basically sending that intention to your hands, potentially to make it warmer or hotter because you're sending more blood or other things, and your subconscious takes care of the rest. Right? The universe meets you halfway. Right? So you give the intention and the action, and then the subsequent thing happens. right? So in this way, you can leverage different parts of your body. But then there's a fourth layer. But
for
go
sure.
ahead.
Yeah. But just trying to say, like, the melding of these 3 books is integral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding a way for at least I need to read the Hermetic Science of Transformation to see what exactly you're talking about, because I'm lost. So I'm sure some other people are too, and that's okay. But taking at least what I've learned from The Secret of the Golden Flower and applying the turning of the light, is that kind of what you're doing when it comes to guiding?
That's attention.
Yeah, for sure. But are you saying when you're placing the attention in your hands, and then the subconscious does the rest for the energy going to your fingertips?
Attention and intention.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
right.
Right. And so
which is focus.
The turning of the light would be the attention in the Hermetic Science of Transformation.
And turning of the light translates to stopping and seeing, which stopping is concentration, seeing is insight, which is to think or to have a thought come of that concentration. Yeah. Right. But they always bounce back and forth. That's where the breath is the instrument.
Through the breath.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
So the way that it works then, and maybe you can give a really good description here. Oh, sorry. A very good description here is through the science of the breath. Yeah. You breathe, right?
Correct.
There's a specific pattern that you're using to breathe through pulling into the lower part of your lungs, and then through to the center, and then up to the top, taking a full breath every single time you breathe. Not doing this half-assed half breath that is just enough to make you feel satiated.
It can be a partial breath as long as it's the same method.
Okay, interesting. So the method is what's important.
The method's what's important.
Gotcha. Okay. So that said, now you're using this breath that you've learned through the science of the breath, and you are applying that to The Secret of the Golden Flower, turning of the light.
Yeah. And it was natural.
Yes, exactly. And you're using your breath that you've done, that you're constantly practicing always. This is not something you do for 10 minutes a day. This is something you're supposed to do all of the time. Yeah. Right? So you're using that breath to remind yourself to turn the light and to apply, the Hermetic science.
Anything.
I'm not going to try to even jump into explaining it all because I know nothing about it. But, right? So you're applying that breath to remind you of anything that it is that you need to remind yourself of, right? The breath is your life. This is your life energy. You do not, if you stop breathing, you die, right? So it's the easiest thing that if you remind yourself to apply the breath to as a piece of memory, like a memory action. Yeah. This is something
it's like a mechanism.
Exactly. So just for example, saying, I need to stop thinking so negatively about myself. What do I want to start thinking about of myself that's positive? Okay, well, let's just say you start thinking negatively about yourself, but then you take a breath and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be thinking negatively about myself. Let's try thinking positive, right? And then try it again. And then you just continue this cycle of doing that over and over and over and over and over again, turning light back in the direction, turning your attention and focus back in the direction of positive. Right?
Well, it doesn't have to be any particular emotion or sense. This thing is specifically just a tool, right, of leveraging attention.
Absolutely.
And concentration.
Yeah, but this was just the point because there's most people that I come across think negatively more than they think positively. So that was the piece that I was trying to delve into. So when you apply these things to the Hermetic Science of Transformation, what is the thing that essentially is enhanced through applying these 4 pieces through the Hermetic Science of Transformation on top of these other things?
Okay,
that
so
I am currently still practicing.
Let's go in chronological order. So the first thing was The Secret of the Golden Flower, right? That was the first thing that I read.
That was the first thing that we read, yeah.
Yeah, so I specifically found this book with the intention of learning internal arts that I basically saw in like martial arts stuff. Right, and just like some way to harness energy and power, and that fascinated me. I was like, I want to try that. So I bought this book, and I went and did a bunch of research and like tried to find something that seemed actually legit. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna read this book, and it was short, concise, but it was, it definitely you had to use conversion of language to understand the true meaning, and that was a very important part of this thing. Because it could be misinterpreted. And that's an important piece, which is it uses language like fire, earth, wind, and water, let's say. And those have an English meaning that isn't that, right? Like, let's say fire, for example, is action.
Yeah.
Right? It's the representative of
like the fire of
thing.
ambition or something, right? Like,
well, no, it's not of ambition particularly. It's specifically one meaning, and that is like not one meaning specifically, but what would be God, like the absolute wisdom, like the universe of action,
right?
And all the things that you can translate action as, right? So it's like it's a core meaning where just the word translated as one thing, but all of the things of it. But you have to understand that you have to read that word the way that it's described it in the book, because it'll tell you what all of these things mean. You just have to be paying attention and apply it later in the book. Right? Yeah. And that's just a very important piece, because you can't just read it as I'm reading words and it's just becoming nothing in my head. You have to read each sentence and understand each sentence and then keep moving forward. And then the next time you read it, you'll learn more because you read a different part of the book that changed the first part of the book. Yeah. Right? So that kind of idea. So it's one of those books that you have to read a couple times to understand what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah, and then you can still continue to read it.
Yeah.
And still find, as you go through different stages of your life, different meanings.
But I've come to a point where I understand that now it's specifically just a tool. It's not an ideology by any stretch of the imagination. It's a practice. Right? It's like breathing itself. Right? There's many ways to breathe. Right? But breathing itself could be seen as like a mechanism, right? You can utilize it, but it doesn't have an ideology about it, right? So that's as much as this is, right? It's just saying when you're using the breath, you're utilizing stopping and continuing it by seeing. And this is literally what the book is just trying to describe. Yeah. Right? And that what that means is you're having concentration and you're thinking. You're just, when you breathe in, try to focus and concentrate and ground yourself, relax, that kind of stuff. And then when you're breathing out, it doesn't have to matter. Like, you don't have to do them in particular order, or it doesn't even fucking matter if you say it when you breathe in or breathe out. It's just when you're breathing in or breathing out, you remind yourself to then think of either of these things and repeat, like, continue the process, right? And insight being your thinking, but it's with an intention. Right. That's the only thing. You have to be thinking for a purpose. Yeah. Right. Because then you can move forward with this direction and this momentum, and the wheel turns and you keep going forward. Yeah. Right? But that's all it's doing. You're just, whenever you are reminded of your own breath, which is the practice, is to remind yourself of breathing, which is why it led me to breathe correctly.
Yeah. Because if you consistently remind yourself and make it second nature, then you will always be reminding yourself to breathe properly.
Yes. And that's why I had no choice but to learn the science of breath. Because it led into, okay, well, if I want to try to have this energy thing, which is basically just to be more vigorous, like to be able to do more things easier or better in a semi-perceptible way, or maybe perceptible in certain capacities, right? But to just learn that ability. Right. And then I was like, okay, well, let's do science of breath. And it was a yogi, whatever, right? So it's completely different from the first thing. The second topic completely shifts because I'm not looking at ideology. I'm looking at function. Yeah. Right. And that's how I'm reading it through my perspective of it.
Yeah. Instead of ideology, it's mechanic.
It's mechanic because I don't give a fuck about the ideology. I have my own ideas about things. Yes. Right. So then the second piece, I was like, okay, learning about how to breathe in different patterns and different rhythms and what that means and how that means it, and what's happening when oxygen comes into your lungs and then gets translated and purifies different parts of your blood system that's circulating back and forth through your veins and your capillaries and pushing with different volumes and frequencies, and then how that shifts your autonomic nervous system to be more aware or be more relaxed, and how being more alkaline can reduce and clean many different bad chemicals or different things that's running and being purified through your blood, right? That's coming from all of your organs, and if your organs is basically your whole fucking body, and then you have muscle, and that's also getting affected by it. Yep. Right. And then through these different things, you can put your body into a more positive state. Like, let's say you got injured and you want to accelerate healing, or you want to use your intention to send something to your different part of your body. And then you basically do whatever you feel like your mind can do, and then try to get whatever effect. I mean, likely it's minuscule, but it starts somewhere.
Yeah. And I have an example of that, actually. When we were going through the early stages of this practice, I had this big wart on my finger. It was really gross. I don't know if it was like a planter's wart or something, but anyways, it was nasty, and I had it for about 2 years. I could not do anything to get rid of it. I had people freezing it. I had people putting on like wart removal crap.
Yeah.
All this stuff. Nothing worked. But then, for whatever reason, within weeks of practicing this technique of focusing energy and focusing on the breath and turning the light and breathing in this way, that wart was completely gone. Isn't that wild? Physical manifestation of this thing working on my body with something that was causing me discomfort just going away.
Fascinating.
After 2 years, when doctors couldn't get rid of it with wart removal and freezing and all this constant shit that I had to do to get rid of this stupid thing, right? Because my nail would grow into it. Like, it was that big. My nail would grow out, and it would like cut, and it would hurt, and it was fucking uncomfortable. So, but then within 2 weeks of this process and really trying to understand it and really do it, this wart was completely gone.
Yeah.
And I have no way to understand the mechanics behind that besides I put my body in a fucking overdrive, and it just constantly was being pumped with the right amount of like the highest level of oxygen that it needed and everything that it needed to be able to function at peak healing capacity, whatever, right? And then somehow it just worked and got rid of it.
Yeah, and I can't really explain it as much as I can describe my own experience, but I find it fascinating in the ways that it can be used, right? But it's also just allowing something to take place that you are unsure of the outcome. So don't expect an outcome.
Yeah. Right?
But predict with intention.
Yes.
Not expect with an outcome.
Yeah. Because that's a really good way to get yourself down and to quit, right?
Well, yeah, because if it doesn't go the way that you anticipated or expected, well, then you've already attached yourself to this outcome. Therefore, you're going to feel the repercussions of the failure, perhaps, rather than translate in a way that you actually appreciate the failure.
Right. Totally. So then, just quickly before we wrap this up here, go back to the last piece there, the mind, I believe you were about to talk about.
Yeah, so there's
science transformation.
Yeah, so there's the 4 layers: the physical, the nervous system, the mind, and then the 4th layer is what encompasses all of the forces, right? Which includes light, and light's an important one because it provides for a lot of the basically quantum reaction of us existing.
Yeah.
Right? Like life wouldn't be a thing without light.
No.
So therefore it is a massive stake in our existence. Yet since we are also light, therefore because it is a part of us, therefore we are it, we have the ability to potentially manipulate it, is my understanding of this book. Right? But it's not that it's just light or anything like that in particular. It's that anything like what is magic, which is simply all that is, you can, by understanding the inputs, you can potentially get an output. But if you're ignorant to certain mechanics that can exist, you won't be able to have a lot of outputs because you won't put in the right inputs.
Yeah.
So you won't have the experience, therefore you can't confirm it, therefore you disbelieve in it.
Right. Yeah.
As simple as that. Right? And this book opened up my mind to being like, okay, I'm going to try to rationalize this. Like it says in the book, do not believe anything really as it comes. You have to investigate it and include it in your experience, and then actually try to understand it. And therefore you do then potentially have the ability to manipulate it. Like potentially understanding the brain and knowing that you can send a signal to your hand, for example. Right?
Absolutely.
I'm leveraging something I don't understand, and the universe is meeting me halfway. That's as simple as it is.
Yeah.
Some things don't work, some things do.
Yeah.
Right? You got to play with it to understand it.
Absolutely.
It's like cooking.
Yeah.
We've used this example before. Right? And that's the fascinating part about it to me, is everything fits in those fundamental layers. They're all made of everything. It's just on what densities and in what quantities.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
Like everything potentially just being a vibration and us seeing it because the light hits it and it has some degree of cooling, therefore it becomes a physical object.
Right.
And that's everything from that.
Yeah. Right. It's just insane. We live in an insane world, an insane time. We were lucky to be born here.
Oh,
right?
fuck yeah.
We were lucky to be born on this planet in the first place. The one in a trillion chance that this could have happened.
Or
right?
even at this time.
And even at this time, it's even less likely, right? So,
Well, not less likely, but just us being here at all.
yeah,
Of
absolutely.
The many possible other incarnations of us.
like we could have been born an ant,
Yeah, fuck.
right? We could have been born a fucking
Boom,
mayfly.
squish.
Yeah, we could have been born a mayfly. We could have been born a deer that's always scared, right? Like, no, we were born a conscious being that has the ability to make change in any way that it sees fit.
Yeah. I mean, I would reckon all insects and random things like this are relatively conscious.
Well, to a degree, yeah, but
Yeah.
not. You can't say that they're conscious to the degree that we are.
Well, that's
And that's just that's what I'm baffled by.
well, that's where consciousness itself, and this is a hard question. Consciousness itself, we're just an extrapolation of it in all of the capacities that it itself permeates everything.
Yeah, and our idea of what consciousness is.
Well, yeah, because we can rationalize it. A little insect can't. That doesn't mean it doesn't have the consciousness.
Of course, no, yeah, and that's not what I'm saying. But like,
But that was like just simply it, right?
totally,
That was my point.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I find that the fact that we are born in that time where we are conscious and we are able to make great change in our own lives at any given moment that we choose to, and genuinely choose to, and decide, okay, I'm going to make this change happen, and there's nothing that's going to fucking stop me, right? That's wild.
Yeah.
And that we were born in a place and
Crazy
a time
leverage.
that we were able to do that, right? That's crazy. Anyways, thank you so much for this chat. Everybody, if anybody's listening here, please join our Discord. We'll try to see if we can throw that somewhere so you guys can join.
Yeah, it's in the
And-
podcast description.
Yeah, in the podcast description. And we'll throw the questions that we asked ourselves today. This will be the first episode of 2. We have 5 more that we're gonna go through on our next episode. But we would love it if you would answer a couple of these questions yourselves, like a transformative moment in your life. If you could solve one world problem, what would it be and why? Like any of these questions that we asked today, we'd love to hear it from you. And thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Epic. Take care, everybody.
Bye.